All right. Well, thank you guys for being here, especially at this time. Really appreciate hearing the stories today. Appreciate the speakers, kind of lessons learned, as well as sharing your information and your understanding of this. Oh, thank you. This field with us. So my name is Jessica Holman, and I work for Pfizer. I've been with the company for 10 years. I've had a number of different roles. I started actually more on the process engineering side, and lately I have definitely transitioned more on the delivery of digital solutions. And today I will be talking about the case study, unexpected challenges and benefits, what we've learned in the last year of rolling out the EBRs. So some of these have been known, some of them, really felt different once going through it, and some were a little bit unexpected. So I'll share our story today, and we'll get to it. So first off, a little bit about who we are and what we're going to cover. I'm going to talk about the group and the environment this was deployed in. I'm going to give some information on how the deployment went, some of the technical decisions that we made that really mattered on how this rolled out later on. I'll cover some of the lessons learned, known and unknown, as well as some of the unexpected or unanticipated benefits from the solution. And then I'll wrap it up for the end. So I think to understand the deployment, really important to understand the environment it was deployed. So we are a clinical manufacturing site. And at Pfizer, actually not far from here, located in Groton, Connecticut, we are solid dose manufacturing, so tablets, capsules, anything along those ends. We have two main facilities. So the first one is the SDM, or our solid dose manufacturing facility. This is our typical batch manufacturing facility. And so we do a number of different processes, a number of different scales, roller compaction recordation, some kind of bespoke processes for immediate release and modified release tablets. And then we also offer our PCM, which is our continuous manufacturing line. So completely different technology, actually kind of nice as far as how streamlined it is. But again, different facility, different approach. And with being in this clinical manufacturing space, so flexibility is really part of our core mission, which means variations is part of our daily reality. And so for this, we probably see over 120 batches a year, 15 different drug candidates within that year. And this will kind of look like 3 or 4 different candidates in a week. We'll manufacture those for a week to 4 weeks, and then we'll completely change over to a different product set. And then 10 really true technology platforms. And that's not talking about kind of one-offs or special characterization. So just a lot of variability built into our process. And even with this, I would say the group was amazing. And when we thought about EBRs, we really didn't see it as a constraint. We saw it more as an enabler for how we want to run our business. So excited to kind of move into that space. And we probably started our digital journey back in 2018. And this is when we started our kind of partnership with EIS, and we deployed e-logs, and that had gone so successfully. So we're leveraging that success, and then really had been discussing EBR for several years. And there are 3 primary drivers. So the first is compliance, and we really wanted to have the controls in place, have the ability to set those up in a way that paper just cannot meet. So system force compliance, review by exception, reduction in human error, data integrity were all part of the drivers here. The second really was productivity. So being in the environment where we are a little bit leaner, we wanted to make the most of our time and our engineering efforts. And so wanted to focus on eliminating manual transcription. Sorry. Streamlining the work process, reducing costs associated with it, and really making that room for the science engineering to take place, and putting some of the administration tasks, automating them as much as possible. And then the final piece is the knowledge or the data. So every opportunity to run a batch in a clinical setting is an opportunity to gain information and lessons from it. So if you're doing a tech transfer, if you're doing a scale up, these batches are kind of critical for our understanding of the product, and we have very limited API materials. So data and being able to access, see the whole picture, and really build off that history in a meaningful way was an absolute key driver for us in this space. And then a little bit about how we deployed. So we probably did a 3-phase deployment. The first one was to launch templates for our highest utilized technologies. So we didn't go after everything at once. We definitely phased in and had both paper and electronic at the beginning. And so with that, we went after our core processes, which probably covered 40 to 60% of our workload. After that, we started scaling just by expanding templates for the remaining processing lines. We were able to prioritize based off of how frequently they were used and how important that data really was to us. And then last piece is how to tackle those one-offs. And for this, what we focus on is training up actually the same set of users who are doing the paper records to be able to take the templates, modify the templates, so that they can make those smaller changes without having to have the burden on the small team still developing the templates. And there were three probably key components for how we approached the deployment. And so the first was the technology templates. These were approved templates that were heavily created by the process intelligence team, so kind of more of a central resource. They were built, heavily tested, heavily validated, especially towards the beginning. And then when users would actually go to create a working batch record, or the batch record that goes in for execution, they're able to pair that up with a parameterized product list. And I know this has come up in a couple talks, and absolutely could not recommend it more. So even in the space where it's clinical, we make a ton of changes, a ton of different products. We needed a way to cycle through those very quickly. So we pulled out any kind of product-specific information into a parameterized list that can be approved separately so that when you are creating that batch-specific record, that would pull in. We also kept a section at the beginning that the team would fill out ahead of going to the operations floor. So anything different for that batch, we had some controls in place. So if you're sampling certain portions, if you're not, anything not scale dependent that they still needed the flexibility, we were able to build that in with batch-specific entries. All right, so moving on to lessons learned. And how I'll introduce this is kind of on a pain scale of how they felt while we were going through it. So the first was the product prioritization was a huge win for us. Made it faster feature for deployment and was a very nice, easy win, quick win from the start. The second was integrations boost value and drive user adoption. Those have overall been extremely positive. Kind of neutral in the middle. So that strong partner with operations is essential, and this is for the good, the bad, and everything in between. It has made such a difference with how we work with them, and I'll get into this more. Moving into the areas that felt a little bit more uncomfortable, so adding a new processing line while maintaining and updating templates was extremely tough and resource intensive, and I'll talk a little bit more on that as well. And then finally, just the change management, and I don't think this was a surprise, but it really did feel different going through it. It's a hard transition for the team, and absolutely be prepared to provide more support for a longer period of time. So a little more background on some of these. So starting with parameterization, it was absolutely critical for us. So before deployment, we estimated probably 27 hours for creating a single batch record. So it goes creation, review, approval cycles. And like we said before, smaller team, hundreds of records per year. So that was a huge time savings that when we flipped to electronic, we saved at least 50% of the time. And in most cases, more than that, especially as you did different product iterations that required less updates. And so while some parts of execution or this transition are still we're in that phase where they're paying off, the parameterization really enabled rapid EBR creation and provided those efficiency gains from the start. The next is integration. So we did kind of take that start small approach. When we initially launched, we went with e-logs and our document system, but then later added our inventory system. And I would say with each of those, again, reduce manual effort and really enforce trust in the system. And what's great about the integrations is that users really begin to see MES less as like an overhead that we're pushing on them, but more as a real solution for the infrastructure going forward. And then the third point, so Absolutely critical. A strong partnership with operations is essential. EBRs demand a really deep understanding of your processes. You can't simply translate that to paper. I think the best approach is that as you're going through this manufacturing process, really understand what it means, and you're defining your process, I think, as you are going through it. So working side by side with operations really helped us resolve any kind of sequencing issues, address system limitations, and move forward as one team. And then supporting deployed templates while maintaining the ones that you've already done is extremely resource intensive. I think we understood this. We knew that it would build as we go through. But for some reason, we just can't keep our processes as they are. We love to change them. So we're still kind of maintaining while expanding. And a couple recommendations here. So one is absolutely leverage your vendor relationships. So I didn't mention at the beginning, but we deployed with EIS, and we have had just a really fantastic relationship with them. I would say we're definitely utilizing them more at this phase than I probably would have expected, but it's been a great way for us to be able to scale our deployment with the resources we have while we're still kind of maintaining and updating our processes and making sure that we're doing the floor support that we need to right now. The other piece I have recommendation is at least just put out a routine update schedule just for expectations. So for example, for us, for one of our core processes, we'll say 6 months. And even though that sounds extremely long, it goes by quickly. And we absolutely will do updates quicker than that. And we absolutely do update quicker than that. But it's at least nice to have some frame of reference for expectations going forward. All right, so the final piece, again, really just to change management. Transitioning to EBRs is hard. I think we all understand that. Hands-on execution, real-time troubleshooting, being able to be there, having the listening sessions, that was far more beneficial, I think, than continuing to just offer formal training. So really being in the floor, giving the real-world scenarios was, I think, where time was really well spent. All right, so moving on to some of the unexpected benefits of EBRs. So just a couple quick highlights. I think, again, we might have known these going in, but to actually see the value has been, I think these are the areas that we like to focus on. So the first is improved data accuracy and traceability. We knew we would have better compliance going into it, but it's just been such a positive experience to see that in practice, to be able to put in those controls, to see the reduction in errors, and really improving that regulatory compliance. It has absolutely won out, and then we've been able, I think, to add more controls, have better conversations about CAPAs because we have these capabilities. So the fundamental change how we understand our process. And then the second, kind of going along with the learnings and how much this forces you to understand your process, I think going through that level of detail, of granular detail of how your process breaks down, and then you pair that with the real-time data coming off of it, that has been an absolute game changer for us. It's really resulted in issues being identified early, investigations are moving faster, and I think decisions are being better informed and being able to be made quicker as well. And then finally, so probably not a surprise, but having that enhanced readiness for AI and advanced analytics. We had an idea of this, I think, when we started this journey, even back in like 2020 or just after that. But again, it's just been so great to see how the technology's moved, and it's put us in such a great position just for our own learning and what we're able to do, as well as for our partner lines. And having that digital records in one place has unlocked enormous French use cases that we absolutely had not anticipated at the beginning. And we're able to really capitalize on the data as a resource for us. So it's something that we can offer in addition to the product. We're able to participate in these pilots. We're able to give knowledge, information, and efficiencies back to the organization. And so it's been incredibly helpful. And really, with every batch you produce, you're expanding your data set, you're expanding your knowledge, and it's just great to see how that grows over time. So in conclusion, would absolutely say, yes, EBRs come with a number of challenges, especially in the clinical space. Again, we never saw it as a constraint, absolutely see it as an enabler for how we want to do our business. And we definitely see that the long-term value is there. So over the year, we see EBRs just not as a compliance tool, but as a foundational capability for learning, optimization, and future digital innovation. So huge thank you to the operations team, the deployment team. Thank you, Ken, for approving all our change controls. Thank you, EIS, for all your support. It's been a really positive experience for us.